Hello and welcome to the Point to Rise show. This is your host, Suzanne Prochelle, former international ballerina that found her passion in mindset, business, and technology, and is today the founder of Rise Media. It is my purpose to use all the experiences of my past to create a better, financially sustainable future for the performing arts industry. And that starts with every single one of us. I believe that being you is your superpower. And I am here to guide you, empower you, inspire you, and give you all the resources you need to rise above what you think you're capable of. Every week, I'll bring you free shows featuring guests, collaboration, and mini episodes to ensure that you have the support in your journey as a performer. I want you to know that you are not alone. Stop chasing and start creating. Your success starts now, here with you. So let's go. Well, hello. Welcome back to the Point to Rise show. I am so grateful to be here today. So I am sharing with you a very special person today, special to me. We met online and I can't tell you, but it feels like we have a much deeper connection. She shared with me her story, her life story, how she grew up. And I don't want to give it away. I want her to do it because I don't think I'm going to do it justice. So Rebekah Chamberlain, she is a mom, a coach, a realtor, fiancé, and runner. And her true passion is sharing tools she developed through her own life's journey to help you harness your inner resilience and overcome life's obstacles with confidence and courage. We're going to talk all about what it means to be a woman, perhaps. To be a woman in any kind of circumstance and how to overcome the challenges that we are sometimes faced with, and use them as a fuel for growth and for pressing on, and also to make a difference in this world. You know, we can be bogged down by something that's happening to us, or we can choose to overcome them and rise up and help others to walk that path that we already walked. So without no further ado, here's our interview. The day I've been waiting for. Thank you so much for being on this show, Rebekah. I'm so thrilled. You know, what I find always so interesting is that if we're really meant to connect with each other, it really does happen. Like there's certain people in your life that just come into your life for a certain reason. Mm-hmm. I feel like I know you for a very, very long time already. Mm-hmm. And it would be very selfish to just keep this to myself. So welcome, my darling.
Thank you so much. I feel so privileged to be here. And I concur with your feelings. I feel as if I've known you for a long time. And there's definitely a reason our paths crossed.
Okay, so this is for our audience. You have not been in the performing arts world whatsoever. However, here is what I really want to really bring to light, and that is that we all struggle somewhere, somehow. Mm-hmm. That you are not the only one as a performing artist that is going through hard stuff in your life. Your path is not the only one that's hard. And I think the more and more we can show you that we all struggle somewhere. Mm-hmm. And what we're really about is like gaining our power back, understanding that struggle here or there, challenges here or there, we're still us. And if we're not denying ourselves our own power, we are here to reclaiming it, and we're here to show others and take you with us and show you that you do not have to put your head in the sand, that you can rise up at any given point. So if you would do me the honor to share as much or as little as you see fit of how your past 20 years have been.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. So, as you know, my name is Rebekah Chamberlain. And what's interesting about my story is when I was 6 or 7 years old, my parents joined a religious cult. So our lives went from being pretty normal. We had lived in California and then moved to the Midwest and had a 2-acre newly built house with everything a kid could dream of. My dad worked as a manufacturing engineer, and it shifted into a completely different life. We joined the cult, and suddenly everything that was normal to us was gone, and our lives got really, really small. We dove deeper and deeper into the organization as I grew older. When I was 10, we moved on to one of the compounds, and we were there in the community until I was 16 years old. And what life looked like for us, for me, I should say, was always trying to fit myself into a tiny little box. I remember, and I think all of us have this feeling as little children that we were meant for more, that there was some kind of dream that we've all had that never goes away, even though maybe we mask it and forget about it and turn it into something different. That knowing is always there. So fitting inside of the box of this cult was extremely difficult for me. I had always dreamed of living a big life and making a difference and doing it on my terms. And instead, believing that I was truly doing what was honoring to God, I put all those dreams aside and turned them into fears so that I could handle the sadness of not living them out, and followed the direction that I thought was right or honoring or somehow the best thing. So it was all about self-sacrifice and really serving the men in the culture. So, I didn't have any freedom. It was being a helpmeet to my father until he found somebody for me to marry. It was about never being under anybody's authority but his or my future husband's. And so it was all about cleaning and cooking and someday raising babies and doing things around the home. And it was nothing about living outside of that. Traveling, doing anything alone was absolutely forbidden as a woman. When I was 19, my dad found somebody that I could marry, and we were later married when I turned 20 years old. And we lived a lot of the same principles out. I was to be his helpmate and to tend to every need or desire that he had. I remember walking down the aisle on my wedding day, feeling like passing out and throwing up and using every ounce of energy I had to not run outside of the church that day, because I knew it wasn't right, but the belief system that was outside of me told me it was. And so I sacrificed to honor that. And our lives were the most miserable experience I've ever had. Aside from 3 beautiful children, there's not a whole lot of positive notes to touch on through that season of marriage. But 9 years into that relationship, I found the courage to walk away from it. I had 3 kids, $3,000, 3 bags of clothes, and I left one day and never went back, and have found a way to build a life that I'm proud of now, and am obsessed with sharing my story and sharing what I learned the hard way to help other people inside of difficult situations grow and get out of them.
Okay. I don't know about you, but I think I need a second to breathe. And this is not the first time Rebekah told me her story. So can we go back? Can I just say what a courageous woman you are? Because I don't think we, even in society, I was just on a podcast interview just before us where we talked about women and their power, and do we actually know what we're capable of? Obviously, in the cult that you were growing up in, the woman was secondary. Like everything that was really catered to was the man. And I don't want to make this about, men and women, and men are bad and women are great. And no, we're all phenomenal. However, for some reason, men thought at some point, and we carry that through, that we're secondary individuals.
Yep.
And really, let's be honest. How often have we heard, like, just be the good girl, don't make a fuss, don't stand up, don't make a noise, right?
No.
Yeah, you were not allowed to do anything by yourself. What is that, like 1840 something? I think they were further ahead in terms of women and men than that kind of a statement. So when you were talking about being in a box, it reminded me so much about my upbringing and my experience as a dancer altogether, because I think that's where I want to kind of make the parallel and build the bridge, that no matter where we are at in life, we can be put in a box. And it is on us to realize that, and then to understand and gain the awareness, well, do I have to make it work? What is the price that I'm paying to make it work? And how do I potentially get out of it? So I know you do one-on-one coaching. So what would you tell somebody that feels absolutely stuck in their circumstances? Like, where would you start with them uncovering or taking down the first layer of those boxes?
I would start with self-awareness and really diving deep into what's theirs to own and what's outside that they're not in control of, and really seeing what progress we can make on what they can control before we remove them from a situation that's outside of their control.
So let's go into self-awareness, because right now it's a word, right? And I've heard it a million times. Oh, you have to just step up your self-awareness. Like, what is that? How do we do that? Like, what are the tools and why do we need it? Let's get a little bit into that, because I feel that particularly in the performing arts, there is no such thing. Please, there isn't much of that yet, and not fostered. So why do we need self-awareness? Let's start there.
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good question. Well, we need self-awareness in order to build our self-confidence, in order to live out our purpose, in order to even have any sort of resilience to get through a difficult situation. We need self-awareness to really be true to ourselves. And I think I find for myself and a lot of other people, when we're in difficult situations, which it sounds like a lot of performing artists are, it's so easy to shut down that self-awareness because it's equated to pain and unhappiness, and we're truly not being true to the inner compass inside of ourselves. So we just shut it down. We mute it out as much as we can. We, find other things to focus on. We try to numb with whatever agent we use to numb, whether it's Instagram or a glass of wine or whatever it is, because we don't know how to face what feels like something that's too big for us to face. And that's really diving into our own values and what's important to us. So I think a really, really good place to start, if you find yourself in that situation and you lack self-awareness, is asking somebody you trust what they see as your strengths and your values. So getting an outside perspective is going to help you start getting a connected inside perspective. A couple other things that I like to encourage people to do is take a personality test. Anything that helps you get to know or understand why you're reacting to something or feeling the way that you're feeling. It's about knowing yourself. And then also spending some time to write down your values and your priorities and in what order they're in. And these are all things that just help you start feeling inside of your body and inside of your beliefs and getting it out so that you can start acting on what is true for you.
Oh, I love that. Start acting upon what's true for you, not what somebody else made true to you, right? Yeah. So when we're talking about I would say there's so many layers of self-awareness, and I think we've never done discovering and growing in that particularly realm. I think the more we stop just going through our day, doing the same thing over and over again, basically pushing a button and being on autopilot and really being just, well, maybe a slave to our emotions and not knowing how to navigate them, or even understanding where they're coming from and what is triggering what. That is a really good sign of, hey, there is something that you can do to gain more self-awareness, so you're not sitting there complaining, numbing, being angry, frustrated, or sad or depressed, because you always have a different choice. You can always choose again. You can always make a different decision. And it really truly starts with having that nudge. Yeah. And that person perhaps too, that will help you to walk those first 20 feet, because yeah, the beginning is hard. The middle is really messy, like really messy. That's when you also need a lot of people that will give you the tissues and help you back up into bed. And then from there on, it is easier, I would say, a little easier, because you know what's coming.
Yep. Yeah, you do know it's coming.
Right.
And sometimes shaking things up in the tiniest way, instead of mindlessly going through your day, brush your teeth with your left hand if you usually brush them with your right. Put on the opposite sock or shoe on first than you normally would. Drive to work or walk to school a different route. Change it up to train yourself to be aware and to notice what's going on around you and inside of you. It doesn't have to be, this great act of removing yourself from some situation. It's really the tiny little things that you choose to do every day that build up that muscle that lead to the big decisions that you need to make.
I love that. I'm going to throw one more thing in there. You know how we can actually realize that whatever we concentrate and where we put our energy is actually what filters through our brain and then into our consciousness, is by just play that game over and over again. Like, close your eyes and say, I'm going to look at all the brown things in your room, and you open your eyes, and what you will notice are all the brown things in your room. And then you close your eyes and you do that the same with the red and the blue and the yellow. So now that will give you perhaps not only the confidence, but the recognition of whatever you concentrate on is what will come into your forefront. So if you concentrate on all the bad things in your life, that is exactly what you will recreate. And if you concentrate on what you're capable of and able and believe and perhaps could dream of, that is what you're going to see. And I found that sometimes when we're really, really down, or, really need that lifeline, that has helped me to go back to, hey, I'm in power. Like, I get to make that choice.
Yep.
And I think that's what I find so beautiful in your story. Mustering up the courage to leave a relationship that was expected off of you, with 3 little kids, a bag of clothing, and $3,000, is perhaps one of the most courageous decisions anybody could have ever made. So can you, if you don't mind, because I want to dive a little bit deeper on how courage can show up in our life, and where we can find it, perhaps, if we think we're actually not a courageous person.
Wow, that is a loaded question. Courage showed up for me when the resistance that I try to make sure I say this right. Courage showed up when the pain or the fear of what was to be became let me put it this way. I'm sorry. Courage showed up when the pain of staying stuck was greater than the fear of what was to come.
Right? Exactly.
And I think that goes back to what you focus on.
Mm.
I started to see that there was so much more out there. And I started to focus on my belief that I could be part of something bigger. And that shifted in me the fear of letting people down, the fear of sinning, the fear of not having anybody, the fear of I'd never had a job. I didn't know how to live in normal society, the fear of my own inexperience. When I started focusing on the dream and the goal, suddenly the pain of not chasing that became so strong that the fear couldn't stop me anymore.
That is so powerful, because that is basically our mindset at the most beautiful, powerful way of how it really works, right? I heard, oh, when you were talking, it came in so clearly. Let me see if I can recap this. Tony Robbins always says that we create what we focus on. Okay. He also says that our frontal lobe has like 40% of our entire brain occupied, meaning 40% of our entire brain is here to create something. And when we're asking the question, what if, we're actually jump starting that frontal lobe of our brain, and it starts working in our favor, because what if opens up possibilities. It opens up creativity. And I think once you started saying, hey, wait 1 second here, what if I don't have to be here? Even if I'm not fully committed yet, even if I don't even buy into the possibility yet, but it definitely shifted your mindset to the point where you then were able to do that. And I think that is so powerful that we, as so many in society, underestimate the power that is really literally in between our ears. And yet it is creating everything that we are experiencing.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 1000%. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about and obsessed with what I do now, is because I see the possibility in everybody, because we all hold the key to our own destiny, and we can all go as far as we choose to go. And it's all in our mindset and our thoughts and what we choose every single day. And I just see what a beautiful world we can create as we all step into our purpose and set aside the excuses and the blame and the lack and the mentality of just coasting through life and not asking the questions, just fitting into the box that we think we're supposed to. And what can we all do together if we throw aside societal norms and ask the questions and step into our truest selves every single day?
Yes, we could stop right here. Don't be afraid. We won't. But yes, totally right. Like, I have nothing else to say to that, because that's the truth. That is the ultimate truth. And I think it was such a revelation for me when I learned that, for so many years being in that box. And I'm obviously for you too.
Yeah.
When you are willing to step outside the safety, the assumed safety of that tiny box that you're trying to fit yourself in. It's not, it might be scary out there. However, it is also full of possibilities. And I would say like freedom. That's what I'm feeling. It's like, oh, this is heavy weight has been lifted off, where I have to make myself fit to somebody else's needs and desires, where it's just me. Take me or not. That's okay.
Yep. And there's a level of ownership that I think we all are really afraid of when we step outside that box, because the perceived safety is that somebody else is in charge, right? And we're not responsible for the day-to-day, and we're not responsible for the ending, because hey, we can always have an escape, right? Oh, well, that didn't turn out the way we wanted. It was so-and-so's fault because they were in charge. And when we take ownership for our lives for the first time, it can feel so overwhelming and so scary, because now, win or fail, it's on me. Like, it's 100%, I'm in the driver's seat. And my experience with that, though, is, like you said, that word freedom. As you dive deep and do the work and the healing and take ownership and stay in the driver's seat, the freedom that you get to experience is worth every risk that you could ever take to experience and have.
Oh, yes. Let me ask you this, because that just came up when you were talking. I think the fear of perhaps failing is still a very prevalent fear in society. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have to, have a talk with ourselves, and the shame that comes up not being good enough or not making it, whatever that is. And I want to just hear your maybe motion about that.
Mm-hmm.
When people are reluctant to invest in themselves, meaning hiring a coach, going to the seminar, moving out of relationships that are not serving them, do you think that the lack or the fear of investing has something directly to do with the fear of disappointing oneself, because you're no longer really able to blame somebody else for any kind of failure?
I think it is definitely related. And I also think it's a self-worth situation, like, right? The amount of value we put on ourselves. But I think those are both related too. When you don't have the confidence to take the driver's seat, you also don't have the level of self-worth that you need to develop to invest in those things. And it really does take making the leap and taking a chance on yourself to develop those muscles inside of your mind and your body. And there's no way around it, but there's no way to fail when you do jump in. You can't lose investing in yourself in any way. There is no way to lose. And you simply can't let yourself down when you set that energy in motion.
You cannot fail. I love that. It's the truth, right?
It is.
Yeah.
And it's hard to believe when you're sitting on the sidelines, and nobody can convince you of it while you're on the sidelines. You have to jump into the arena to know these things on the level that you and I do, or that anybody else in the arena knows them.
Okay, let's pivot a little bit. What excites you right now?
Oh, what excites me? Life excites me right now. I think what excites me the most is, we hit on it earlier, how powerful our brains are and what we can create for ourselves and what we can create that impacts others. And knowing that there are a ton of women out there ready to take that leap and make a difference in their own lives. And the thought of getting to be a part of that, whether it's someone listening to this podcast, or a client, or somewhere down the road in a speaking engagement I have, feeling like I get to help people shift their destiny makes my heart want to explode. It makes me so happy.
So that's your why, right?
Yeah.
It's not a medal. It's not a prize. It's
Mhm.
not the title. It's
Mhm.
making a difference in somebody else's life.
Absolutely.
I love that.
100%.
Yeah. Hey, where can we find you, honey? And like what you got going right now? Tell us.
Oh my gosh. Well, you can find me on Instagram. And my website is in the link on my page. And you can find me on Facebook. I'd love to have you welcome you into our community. It's called Resilience Warriors. And we talk there all things resilience. And that's all about building each other up and supporting each other. I think we really make a beautiful story out of these courageous decisions that people make, but we need the support, like you mentioned, as that decision is made, but in the messy middle and throughout the process of being and growing into the next version of ourselves. So I love welcoming people into my private group. I am taking on a few more one-to-one clients. And we're also working on some fun things to come this spring with a group and possibly some masterminds. So I'd love if you'd give me a follow and come into my orbit and stay tuned to what's to be.
Beautiful. I have a question about community. So here's what I grew up with. Now that's the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s in Germany. There was no such thing as community. Like it just did simply not exist. I learned about community here in North America because it's something that we really foster. However, I don't see it very much in the performing arts, and I think it's one point of the arts altogether's weaknesses, because we're not sharing, we're not collaborating to the capacity that we're actually capable of. So
competition.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the places that the industry is coming from is lack and fear and unworthiness, right? So and honestly, before I was actually able to hold a relationship with a female counterpart without feeling jealous or without feeling like the knife in my own back from that other person, I think I just really truly stepped into that last year in seeing the power of women. Particularly, my entire company is women founded. I'm only taking in women investors. Talk to me about perhaps just a little bit about your experience around community and why you are building community as well. I'm part of your community.
I love it. I love it. Well, my experience around community was not having it a lot of seasons of my life, and going through tough things is hard, and going through it alone is even harder. And in the environment I grew up in and the way my marriage was structured was so similar to what you described. It was just you're going at it completely alone. And I was afraid to open up to anybody. I wasn't my real authentic self. I just kept it all inside and dealt with it myself. And community is so important to me now because there's so much power in being seen and being heard. There's so much power in processing what's going on verbally. So many of us are verbal processors, but yet we don't ever speak our truth. There's so much to be learned in speaking our truth in a safe environment so that we can go out into the world and live it out. And there's so much to be said in and feeling the love and the support that you're still learning to give yourselves from other humans on the planet that really do see and know and understand you, and feeling that empathy. And it's my passion to not let somebody else have to be in that space of going at it alone, but to provide community so that we can all grow and get further in the time that we have on the earth and make a bigger difference together. There's no reason to have to go at it alone.
Only our belief, right? That holds us back from it. Something that I don't know where it came from, even honestly, right?
Yeah. And it's such a natural thing. It's crazy, but it is so normal that when you're going through difficult times, we isolate ourselves on purpose. And I love telling my story because I love opening up the floodgates that we all go through hard times and we all have baggage and shit that we have to deal with. And the last thing you need to do is isolate yourself in that situation. Get yourself around the good energy that elevates you to be able to get through the situation instead of making it harder for yourself.
We're not less than because we're not on top right now, right? There's always a winter season that we're going through, even if it's for a day or an hour. There's always spring after winter.
Yep.
Last question. If you could go back to let's just assume your 16-year-old would actually listen to you if you set her down. What would you tell her?
I would tell her that she is worthy of everything she ever dreamed for or desired, and to go after it.
I'm going to leave that right there. That's beautiful. Thank you, darling. Thank you for being here. Go follow her. She is consistently live on any kind of platform you can ever imagine. Even if you're just listening to it while you're on a walk, something will open up when you listen to the words that are coming out of her mouth. We can find you under Rebekah Chamberlain on Instagram. And
Beka Chamberlain,
Beka.
Beka.Chamberlain.
Sorry. Yes.
Oh, it's okay.
In the show notes. And what kind of takeaways, whatever landed with you today, share it on Instagram, share it on Facebook, share it on your favorite platform, or send us a DM if that's not your thing. We really want to know, because then we can adjust our topics that we're bringing on here to whatever you need. So like us, follow us, share us, leave us a review. Thank you, my darling. Thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. And I can't wait to go to Bali with you.
Oh, I know. It's going to be so and I love you, and I love all of your listeners.
Thank you. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Till next time. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. If this message resonates with you, please pass it on to someone who needs to hear this right now. And if you like what you've heard, your feedback will go a very long way. If you just take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star review, that would mean the world to me. Till next time, point at yourself to rise to all that you are capable of.